Is this a forgettable toy? I mean, have you ever heard of this toy? The Star Wars Side Gunner from the Droids cartoon line. Today we're gonna do a deep dive on this toy, why it failed, and why Lucasfilm decided to get into the Saturday morning cartoon game. Lots to cover, so let's go. Welcome back to the channel, and if vintage toys and their history interests you, then subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. And I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, CAS, or Collector Archive Services. Collecting pristine toys is hard, but grading them is easy with CAS. And I've always gravitated to CAS because their website is super easy to use. I just search for the item I want to grade, their checkout and payment is super easy, and their turnaround times are quick. And their acrylics and the way they encase them is second to none. Plus their staff is super friendly. I see them out at conventions all the time when I do in-person submissions, which I suggest you take advantage of because you can ask them questions in person and they're pretty much at every major convention. And they're collectors themselves and are pretty much experts at everything that you or I are gonna send into them. And I only promote companies that I actually use and that I really believe in. So if you want to give CAS a try, use my code Padawan10 at checkout and get 10% off your order. So thanks to CAS for sponsoring this video, and now, back to the Side Gunner. So why did Lucasfilm make a cartoon about the droids? Before we get into the Side Gunner, we need to understand why the cartoon existed in the first place. Let's go back to the early 80s. Cartoons are booming. I mean, it's a billion-dollar industry. And of course, Star Wars being the biggest IP in the world, they wanted in on that. So of course, they went to the marketing gurus who tested the numbers on Star Wars. And the two biggest characters that children identified with were the Ewoks and the two droids, R2-D2 and C-3PO. So in 1984, both of these were put into production over at the Nelvana company, who would produce the animations for Lucasfilm. And of course, these two cartoons would go on to produce two toy lines, with the Ewoks cartoon being more successful and getting a second season, while the Droids cartoon, which was a series of cartoons following the adventures of R2-D2 and C-3PO, and their many masters that they would have on their side quests in between the events of the actual movies, well, it felt a little disjointed. The droids would get lost on a planet, they would find a new master, then for 2 or 3 episodes, they would go on an adventure with that master, only to have the same cycle happen again and again. And you were forced to get to know other characters. I mean, for variety, that could have been cool, but as a kid, this was very confusing. And if I liked a past character or master, nope, can't see them again. Until these cartoons would reappear on Disney Plus almost 40 years later. But again, Saturday morning cartoons were big business, which had been pioneered by the Hanna-Barbera company and revolutionized how cartoons were made in an inexpensive way and in a way that could be mass-produced week after week. And in the 80s, with the FCC and the Reagan administration deregulating children's broadcasting, this meant that cartoons based on toys could air on TV. And then the toys that these cartoons were based on could be shown in commercials, boosting the awareness, and the sales started skyrocketing. Not only toys, but food and clothing directed solely to children, those boomed as well, with sugary cereal, fast food, and clothes and accessories that were covered in logos of their favorite cartoon. But to be honest, that's kind of what made the 80s awesome. And this is the reason why the Droids cartoon and line of toys existed, to capitalize on that market. But the biggest problem was that Star Wars was a dying brand. Return of the Jedi was a blockbuster hit in 1983, but with George Lucas saying that no more movies would be made, interest in Star Wars was waning. Plus, there were other cartoons and shows on the air like G.I. Joe and Transformers that were taking over. Plus, the age group that grew up on Star Wars were outgrowing toys altogether and were shifting to bikes and skateboards, or were moving to the other toy lines being offered, and also the video game console market. But nonetheless, we got the Droids cartoon and the toys that came with it. The toys from the Droids cartoon were only distributed for 2 years, 1985 and 1986, before it was shut down completely in 1986. 12 action figures were made for the Droids line. Well, technically 13, but that figure, Blix, was only distributed in Brazil and is worth a small fortune if you can find one, loose or carded. 9 other action figures were supposed to be made, but never got past their prototype phase. And only 3 vehicles were made. The A-Wing, which was also supposed to be released in the Power of the Force line in 1985, but never was. The ATL Interceptor, a mini-rig type vehicle that looks like some of the designs released for The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi mini-rigs. And of course, this, the Side Gunner. The Side Gunner first retailed for $4.99 in 1985, and it was based on the vehicle shown in the cartoon that was used by the From Gang, with its first appearance being in the episode called The Trigon Unleashed. And like I said before, you can watch the entire series on Disney Plus right now. The toy itself is pretty cool looking in my opinion, and resembled something at a Cobra Commander's arsenal than a Star Wars toy. I was hunting for one for a while now, and although I saw some good examples out there, I really wanted one with unused content. So I bought one on auction at eBay from a seller who I hadn't bought from before, which was kind of risky on my part because nowadays I either know the seller on eBay, have seen them sell at other places online, or I've bought from them before, so I know their reputation. And not only is being assured that the seller knows what they're selling, meaning that it's complete, authentic, and for a fair market value price. Another important aspect is the way that these sellers package the item. That means a great deal to me. And some of these items can get pretty expensive. So finding a trusted seller that takes pride in packaging is a must. When the package did come to me, it came a little damaged, and the unboxing had me nervous as heck. And to watch those unboxings, become a member over at Patreon or a member right here on YouTube. I post my unboxing videos over there as well as early access content, so thank you for your support. And if you were lucky enough to get one of these in 1985, this is what it would have come with. The box art is a timeless classic, and I love the way it was designed, with the main image being from the cartoon itself, with the offer in the lower right-hand corner touting the planetary map which comes inside. On the back are photos of the actual vehicle itself, with the sides showing the cartoon art and the flip side showing the actual toy. And of course, when opening the box, be very careful about the flaps that you don't accidentally tear them off. This toy is over 40 years old. Everything is fragile, including the cardboard. Inside the box, this toy comes packaged with a cardboard insert. And it's good to check out the cardboard before buying, as these cardboard inserts are easily reproduced. You gotta check for authenticity as well as checking for mold. Sometimes I've seen these with heavy black mold from people storing these in damp places over the years. So you want to make sure the cardboard is crisp with no tears, mold, or a funky, musty smell. Then there's the paperwork. This came with the instructions, which in itself is a nostalgia blast to the past. Because I remember how exciting it was to read through these with my dad or my uncle, as they used to help me put these together when I was a kid. This also comes with a Kenner business reply mailer, the sticker sheet, and the advertised planetary map. And these planetary maps can be quite rare, so if you find one in good condition for a great price, I would snag it up. Taking the toy out of the cardboard, the missiles came taped to the cardboard in a separate sealed baggie. And since I'm gonna keep this toy with unused content, I'm not gonna rip open the baggies and peel off the stickers, but I can still show the main features of the toy. The sidecar can be spun around like one of those crazy rides you see at your local fair. Just watch out for the carnies. You can also open the main cockpit and have another figure sit inside. Since this toy was made in such low amounts and hardly any of them were sold, you can still find these sealed or with examples with unused content. It's not super easy to find these, but they are out there and for great deals. And even though this wasn't a nosebleed price, the total that I paid, including shipping, which was free, the total price came out to $312. And if you're still here and got some good knowledge, then please give this video a like. That really helps me out. So let's cross this off our list. The Droids Side Gunner that we bought from a seller on eBay with complete unused content for $312. And if you're looking for those variants on the Side Gunner, in 1985, there was one released in Brazil by the Glasslight Toy Company. Some people also pronounce it Glasslight. But personally, I like pronouncing it Glasslight. I don't know, am I wrong? By the time this toy came out in 1985, I was already phasing out of Star Wars, or even playing with toys altogether, and was getting into baseball and skateboarding, and even Nintendo was becoming a thing. So the Droids line and the Side Gunner, it pretty much passed my radar back then. But getting it now, it's cool to have it in unused content, if anything, to preserve a Star Wars toy that wasn't very important to the line as a whole. But it's a reminder to us where Star Wars was back then, even in its failures. So it's important to me to have this and preserve it so future generations can understand that story too. So is this vehicle essential if you're doing a complete Star Wars vehicle run? My answer is no, I don't think it's essential, since it was from the Droids cartoon line, but in my collecting run, I have it listed as essential, so you can go either way. And the next video is about a toy that I just got shipped to me. And I have always wanted this toy as a kid. And I think if you do a survey, I bet you it's on collectors' top 5 lists. Can you guess what it is? So to watch that video and other videos about vintage toy history, click the videos on your screen now. And as always, my friends, thank you, and I will see you next time.